seeing as how this is your 14th or 15th film together?
Yes, something like that.
Yeah. So if you could just talk about your preparation on that.
Preparation was always very essential for the movie, because during the preparation I do photographic tests. We test makeup, we test wardrobe, we do all kinds of stuff to create some kind of representation of the story, lighting and coloring, stuff like that. So I occasionally get really good length of time to get ready for the movie. This was probably like 4 or 5 weeks. For 5 weeks I've done really interesting photographic tests, and based on that I would show them to Steven, and based on his reaction I would make certain choices, and with those choices and some ideas we would start the production. We didn't talk much about what we're going to do. We seldom do. I think the beauty of working with Steven is that he expects from his collaborators, from the people that he works with, to be at the top of the profession, and he trusts our judgments and trusts our choices, and he goes with our ideas, which is also extremely rewarding and inspiring to work with someone who sees you as an equal participant, and who admires your contribution to the movie. I think we've spoke very briefly about certain lighting style, and knowing that the camera is not going to move, and knowing that the sets will be built around the existing blueprints of the White House, and knowing that I will work with windows and existing light sources. Automatically there, certain style is being created. I don't have to reinvent the wheel. If there's a lamp, most of the time the light would come from that lamp. It doesn't mean that I would actually use that lamp to illuminate the scene, because it's just not sufficient enough to give the illumination. But I would motivate the light sources by existing light sources in the set. And of course, if the drama was not appropriate, drama of the light by drama of the existing light was not sufficient for the story, I would totally abandon the process of being realistic and just be dramatic with the light. So I would just go for non-realistic light sources to make the movie more interesting in terms of the storytelling.
What's it like shooting a film that is so largely interior?
Well, it's to me, it was not that largely interior, because we have many exterior, many existing locations. So to me, set means you are, interior movies like you're on the sets. So this was existing locations, which was different than being on a movie set. But I like being in that environment because it allows me to do, to some degree, more controlled work. If I'm on location and I'm relying on the sunlight, then that sun is going to move and everything's going to change. But when I'm on the existing location, I can control the sunlight. I can bring my own light sources. I'm controlling the image to the extent that I like to control it. So I like working on interior movies. What I don't like working on big stages with blue screen or green screen. That is just totally. That's not my ball game. I get physically sick from it. But working on the sets, it's not bad. And I like exteriors as well, but exteriors are very hard because the weather changes all the time, and that was the case of Warhorse. We had three weather patterns every day. Starting with the sun or fog or going into rain, and then you get beautiful puffy clouds, and then you get a little bit more fog in the evening. So that's very demanding. So this movie was relatively easy to make because we were in very controlled environment.
Right. Yeah. I wonder if you could talk about the color scheme of the film. I noticed a lot of really deep blacks, kind of, it made it feel, obviously they're very cold because they don't have a lot of heat, and they're all wrapped and bundled
Right.
in blankets, and I could really feel that in the film. I wonder if you could talk about when you're deciding on it. It's very different, of course, from the color palette of Warhorse, very
Right.
different from if you could talk a bit about when you're planning a color palette.
Well, I wrote the winter light, right? So the winter light, by this definition, is a little bit cooler, a little bit, not as colorful. But although I am using sunlight, so you would think sunlight would be warm, but yet well, I wanted that sunlight to be slightly white, you know, simply because it just felt right in terms of not introducing too much color, because it would be just too colorful, not feel realistic. I mean, this room is realistic, but looks garish, right? Because it's got all these colors here. So you want to control the color and use the color to tell the story. And it's simplistic, very simple, you know. Someone is sad, you go with pale white or bluish light. Someone is happy, you go with warm lights, you know. And during the party at the White House, we were using full color pattern. You know, it's party, happy thing, you know, you get costumes and so forth. But during his disagreements with his wife, I would control that color. I would stay away from colored gels. I would light a little bit of blue light, you know, so it became more dramatic, more almost theatrical in those particular instances. And then when we go outside for the inauguration, it's kind of reproduction of almost of the old daguerreotype photos, kind of brownish with the highlights being burned out. So there's some concept to it, and the concept is to evoke emotions and stay somehow true to the period, you know. But then again, very few, or if any, color photos exist from the Civil War. Or if they are color, they were hand tinted, or they were painted by hand. So I don't think I've seen many color photos. They were usually sepia or very brown, you know. But they didn't want to distract the audience from the story. And then pale skin tones were very pale because people didn't really go outside as much in the winter, you know. So I wanted a kind of a white paper tone of the skin of the actors, you know. And you know, and the scene when Mary is sitting on the bed talking to Lincoln, that beautiful silhouette, you know. I've actually put a little bit about color gels on the windows. So I would retain the color of the lace curtain. There's a bit of magenta in that curtain, so I wanted to maintain that because it's just such a beautiful color. But trying to recreate the reality without being overly too colorful.
Right. I wanted to ask you a couple questions about framing. I noticed in the big finale of the film where they're in the Senate voting on the bill, I felt a very claustrophobic feeling. That's why I wanted to ask you about shooting something interior, because I had this feeling of claustrophobia as we're awaiting whether or not the bill is going to be passed. And then the first shot outside, it's a big breath of fresh air.
Mm-hmm.
There's a feeling of relief now that the bill has been passed.
But it was that kind of feel, because with the smoke, with the bright white light coming through the window, and we did have a lot of people there. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know exact amount, but that courtroom was very busy. That courtroom, that Congress was very busy with people. So you know, and people were constantly assaulting each other, whether they were the Democrats assaulting the Republicans. Usually, were the Democrats assaulting the Republicans. You want to feel that kind of intensity of that, you know, that room where the body was stinking, smelling, where the people were smoking cigars and cigarettes, where there was atmosphere. It just felt very, very kind of unglamorizing, you know, very common, very proletariat-like, you know. And yes, and the frame was usually filled up with faces, you know, because it was hard to avoid faces because we had so many people. So, but also created this, you know, this sense of something important, you know, something being happening, decisions are being made, the fate of the nation is being decided.